What's up, everybody? Tyson Roush. Let's talk Jets. Want to wish all of you and your families a very happy and healthy new year. And if you're smart, you should probably take time away from watching the New York Jets because there's no way in living hell that it's good for you. This game was interesting because I think once the Jets got life, where they still had a chance to make the playoffs, your expectation as a fan was the team coming off, they're rested. They played on Thursday night, so they have extended rest. But for the most part, they're healthy. I know Herbert didn't play tonight, but you're like, you know what? This should be the best version of the Jets. Mike White is back. They should play fast. They should play physical. You kind of knew the matchups you can take advantage of, and you expected the Jets to win. And 3 plays into the game, you kind of knew the Jets were going to lose because they came out flat. And he goes 60-yard run. I forget the second play was. Third play was a touchdown pass. Your Jets are down 7-0 before you even had a chance to open up your first beer. But if you were smart, you drank before the game to ease the pain. But, 7-0 before you even opened your eyes up. Disgraceful. I don't understand how a team in a must-win playoffs and season on the line, after you've been given second life, after you've already lost 4 games, 2 at home, after all these things, you have a chance, and you come out flatter than a pancake. Lifeless, unprepared. It was embarrassing. I don't know how to even explain. I don't even want to give a game breakdown, to be honest with you. I think this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So you look at where you're at, you say, you know what? And good teams find ways to win. Bad teams find ways to lose. The Jets are 1-6 after the bye, and they've been a bad team. They've been finding ways to lose. Bryce Huff, and offsides on, 3rd and 4. Dwayne Brown with a false start. 4th and 4, Mike White misses a guy. He misses Garrett Wilson with a bad pass or a combination of a drop. Uzama with a couple either drops or bad passes. There's always something with this team. Braden Mann gets a punt blocked. There's always something. But to me, it comes down to preparation, execution, leadership, and coaching. And that's what it comes down to. And when you lose 5 games in a row, when you're meaningful games in December, meaningful game in January, and your team comes out lifeless and they were just thoroughly outplayed, it's an indictment on the coach. It is. And I personally think that Woody Johnson is too cheap to make a move for Sean Payton. I don't think he'll ever do it. And I think they're going to talk about continuity and stability. The things you saw out of Coach Saleh today are the same reasons why Todd Bowles got fired. That 4th and 2 punt, when you're down 14, when you have Chris Streveler active, all you do, that is the peak time to bring in Chris Streveler and do some kind of running play. You don't punt on 4th and 2 on the 40-yard line, down 14. The shit Saleh did today was the same reason why Todd Bowles got fired. This is a Todd Bowles game. And the other thing is, the way the Jets lost this is the same way the Jaguars beat them. It was play calling. Geno Smith rolling out. Teams aren't going to attack Sauce and Reed. They're going to attack your linebackers and safeties, and they're going to roll the quarterback out. They've been doing it week in and week out. Does anybody understand what's going on here? And on offense, you scored, 9 points in 2 weeks? And you're not playing against the top teams. You're playing against the Jaguars and the Seahawks. And the Seahawks were struggling to stop the run. I don't understand what we're doing here. And so then, I guess I'll recap some things. Mike White wasn't good. He wasn't good at all. He started out okay. If he was too hurt to play or compromised, you take him out. I would have took Mike White out early in the 3rd quarter. I know people say, oh, Flacco sucks, Flacco, whatever. You know what? You use every bullet in your gun to find a way to win. If Mike White isn't it, he couldn't complete passes. He had 2 series in a row. He was just legitimately off. When you bench Zach Wilson when he was off, you bench Mike White too. I don't give a shit about his contract. I don't care about his feelings. I don't care about anything about next year. It's about winning tonight. You bench him, you bring in Flacco. They don't do that. He comes in, throws another interception. That's a problem. They bring in Ty Johnson to, offset, to change things up inside of a night. Fine. Whatever. That's, the offensive line. At some point, I would have benched George Fant. I always say his name wrong, Agbue or whatever the fuck his name is. I would have benched George Fant. In games like this, it's you all hands on deck. You try to find ways to address issues. And they didn't do it. The offensive line fell apart. And then Mike LaFleur. At some point, you have a scapegoat, right? Because when you lose this many games in a row with the season on the line, Saleh has to have a scapegoat if it's not going to be him. It's got to be LaFleur. It's a play calling. And right now, the problem that you have is coming into the season, you want to learn 2 things. Do you have the right head coach? Do you have the right quarterback? Right now, we know we don't have the right quarterback. Zach Wilson is a reclamation project. Mike White is still young, not a lot of experience, not worth a big-time contract. You want to give him $3-4 million a year, bring him back as a backup? Great. So now you have questions at quarterback. you have to have questions at the coordinator, the offensive coordinator. And then the bigger question is, do you even trust this staff as a whole to even develop a quarterback? Because what have they shown you? Like, if the play calling is awful, like, there are play calls, I know them just by seeing them. And dude, I'm drinking beer doing a stream, I can figure it out. I know what they're going to call, or the call doesn't make any sense. So you have questions about the quarterback is a complete. We're at a yearly time now where it's like, well, where do the Jets find their next quarterback? We're right on that back on that hamster wheel. You're on the same hamster wheel as can the Jets actually develop a quarterback, and do they have the right guys in place in order to do so, including the head coach? I think the only way this head coach keeps his job is if he brings in a veteran quarterback, because you can't trust him with a young quarterback. You can't. And that's just, listen, and I like Saleh. And the funny thing is, when this team is 6-3, 7-4, you're like, you know what? I think the Jets have their guy. When you lose 5 games in a row, you're 1-6 after the bye, this is an epic meltdown. This is the kind of shit that costs you your job. So you can't, like, you don't, how do you have a positive feeling about Saleh? Like, at what, like, this is, like, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, right? That's how it is. How is this team finishing? What part of this team is getting better as the season plays out? The defense has gotten worse. The offense has gotten worse. You want to hang your hat on Garrett Wilson getting 1,000-yard receiving? Awesome. Sauce Gardner, good player, defensive rookie of the year? Great. What part of this team has gotten better down the stretch with this season on the line? What are you going to hold your hat on going into next year? This is not a top defense. This defense got exposed. When the defense was playing good in the first half of the year, guess what the league did? They watched film, they watched tape, and they found ways to attack it. And guess what they did? They were successful with it. So, yes, the defense did better in the second half of this game. The offense couldn't get out of their way. And then in big spots, they couldn't go off the field. So, I mean, more questions than answers once again. We're back on this whole circle of stuff. And you listen to Saleh in the press conference, it almost sounded like he was trying to find ways to save his job or justify his job. Well, we had a close loss in Minnesota, a close loss in Buffalo. Here's a newsflash, dude. You don't get style points for fucking losses. You don't. Like, he's been given the benefit of doubt in so many areas because his team was finding ways to win. They were exciting. You saw promise. You saw hope. You saw direction. That light at the end of the tunnel, how do you possibly say that when you watch this team muck it up week in and week out? Like, you're getting your ass beat every week. You're not really competitive. You're having like these little, you're scoring meaningless points. The end of the game today was a joke. And how do you even try to sell me a light in the tunnel? Based on what? You don't even know who your quarterback is next year. You probably have to revamp your offensive line again. And you wonder about the legitimate leadership on this team when they come out flat in a must-win game. So I'm disgusted. I genuinely feel bad for Jet fans because you know what? You lose 4 in a row. We had a sense of hope for the first time in a decade, or 2015, whatever it is. You have a sense of hope, and you know what? You're 6-3 or 7-4. Maybe you can make a run at the division. But you know what? This team should win at least 10 games. This team should make the playoffs. You're still in the hunt. You're losing. And everybody rallied around this team and Mike White for today. Mike White didn't play well. This team played terribly. And here Jet fans are again, going into the last week of the season with nothing to just, you're almost like you're frustrated. You're embarrassed. You're angry. And, a lot of us are going to Miami next week. Now, you go to the game, you're going to hang out, have a good time. But, it's like you don't know what your team is anymore. You're not proud. You're proud of, Sauce and Garrett Wilson. But you're like, we don't even know what to even enjoy with this team anymore, right? You don't know. It's like and then the other thing, too, is the Jets so boldly, when they're playing well, decide to raise ticket prices. How does that look right now? An epic collapse, a same old Jets type collapse. You're raising your ticket prices. How can you legitimately, I'd like to know as a season ticket holder, other than the experience of sharing it with your family and friends, going to the game, and you like doing, you're not getting any return on your investment right now. How do you say, you know what, I want to pay to go watch this shit again next year? Based on what? This team's not marketable. It's not fun to watch. This stream today was like a 3-hour stream of just dread because you saw the team falling apart. And I'm an old ass fan. I've seen this for years. And, a lot of guys call me negative. You're cynical. You're negative. This is why. It's shit like this. In the back of your mind, when you do the preview video, you're like, this is going to be the Geno Smith revenge game. This is going to be a Pete Carroll revenge game. Just like you had in the back of your mind when you played Trevor Lawrence, this is going to be Trevor Lawrence shoving it in our face how we fucked up the tank and didn't win the game. Right? You just know it. And you're like, you're just being negative. And it always happens. The team hates being called the same old Jets, and guess what they do? They come out and they play like the same old Jets. That's what they do. There's no other way to explain this game today. They did everything in their way possible to find ways to lose this game. It was inexcusable. You can't justify it. You can't explain it. Saleh couldn't explain it. He was getting tongue-tied, and Rich Cimini was blasting him. Like, this coach is going to face such a firestorm of backlash because he has the receipts comment, which, you know what? Fans should give their receipts for, like, discounted tickets and discounted jerseys at this point. We'll see Buffalo again. You know where you're going to see Buffalo again, Coach? On TV, in the playoffs. That's when you're going to see them again. So I rambled. I don't think I even covered the game. I don't know what I even did at this point. I mean, thank you guys for joining us. I'm tired of this. You just want to see a direction of this franchise, and they're crawling into the finish line. They're embarrassing themselves. Today was a disgrace. It doesn't look good. Next week's game is completely meaningless. And you know what? For those that want to fire Michael Floor, fire him. You want to fire Ulbrich? Cool. If you want to fire Saleh, I don't even you generally don't have hope, and you don't really know where this team is going because they had their chance and they failed.